of our members has a very special architecture example here. Behind his Victorian, he has a really cool tiki bar. And we thought it'd be really fun to show you around the tiki bar, talk about tiki culture, because tiki is a lifestyle as much as it is architecture. So we have some fun things we're going to do with you tonight. So first, we're going to see about 4 minutes of pre-recorded information. And then after that, we've got time for a bit of Q&A, some more questions for Brian. And then Brian's going to teach us how to make an original Mai Tai. And if you have been looking at the recipe ahead of time, you may have your ingredients ready so you can make one along with us. And then there'll be time for a few more questions after that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to switch, and Devon's going to put on a few minutes of our pre-recorded video. So here we go, Devon. So Brian, tell us about the inspiration for the Tiki Bar. How did it all get started?
Well, I've always loved tiki. I always liked going to places where the environment reminded me of where I'd rather be, like Hawaii or St. Lucia or Key West. So I started hanging out in tiki bars, and I started drinking tiki drinks. And then I got into the rums. I'm much more of a rum guy than a tiki guy, but I still love the immersive environments.
And when did you think about making your own tiki bar?
Basically, we started lightly when we first bought this house in 2007. Started adding stuff, had a little, one of the like commercial you can get in a store thatch roof.
That's so good. Good job.
Bar for outside. And then started adding a few things, and then hired Notch to design this. And he's a well-known tiki bar designer. Among other things, he did Smoker's Cove, the number one rum bar in the world. And so he developed most of this, along with Tiki Diablo, who did some of the individual tiki pieces here.
So Brian, this is the most interesting collection of tiki mugs I've ever seen. Can you tell us where you bought all these, and maybe a favorite?
These two shelves are from Disneyland. Like the ones that we saw in the house, they're mostly from Trader Sam's, but Disney stuff generally. The record is the original Tiki 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 Room. And these are mostly not connected with particular venues or anything, but they're by some of my favorite mug makers. Mostly Danny Gallardo, who designs tiki bars and makes mugs and stuff under the name Tiki Diablo, and by Notch, who actually built this bar. Although Danny did our big logo tiki, which we'll look at a little later. But these are all by Danny, Notch, Scott Taylor in Maui, and a couple of other favorites.
Do you have one that's your absolute favorite?
I wouldn't say that, but these have a lot of memories. These are not particularly special mugs, but they're the ones that Carrie and I drank out of at our wedding.
That is special.
At TV Tom's.
So Brian, tell us what the significance of this type of structure is, what they're called, and what they mean.
Okay, they're kind of generally called tikis. Tiki was actually the first man in Maori mythology, the indigenous people of New Zealand. But the term is used generically now for statues and artwork representing deified ancestors throughout Polynesian cultures. So when Trader Vic, Don the Beachcomber, and Steve Crane created a new pop culture around Polynesian architecture and art, it got called Tiki because there's a lot of emphasis on statues of.
You're gonna have to repeat all
All right. Thanks, Brian, for taking us through and showing us your cool tiki bar. I know that you wanted to take us through some of the things that you have, and I thought maybe you could start with this picture really quick. Could you tell us a little story about this? Oh,
Sure.
you're on mute.
You can't really tell
Oh, there
from
it
the screenshot. You can't really tell from the screenshot that it's basically life size. That picture's about 8 feet tall. It's one of the last queens of Hawaii, Queen Kapiolani, and that picture hung in the San Francisco Trader Vic's for decades when that was in business, and then they later had it in the ladies' room of the Emeryville Trader Vic's for a number of years. And when they no longer really had a place for it, we were able to buy it. But it's a beautiful painting of, as I said, Queen Kapiolani, one of the last queens of Hawaii. And a lot of the decor we have is from various Trader Vic's around the world. And we have a lot from different tiki bars that have either gone out of business or remodeled and deaccessioned various bits of decor and artwork. Although not all of it. Our biggest piece here, this almost life-size canoe, outrigger canoe, if you look real carefully at it, and I hope all of our audience will eventually come to one of our happy hours and look at all of this live. But if you look real carefully, you can see where we painted over the Red Robin logo. But most everything else is from classic tiki bars.
So Brian, it seems like we're seeing a lot more tiki bars and interest. How do you, what do you think the reason is that people are more interested in tiki now?
I think it's just a two different things. One is people like me that love the tropical theme, that basically we love it for the same reason people in the first generation of tiki did. I like what Vic and Don and Steve Crane were going for when they created tiki. There's probably a larger group of people who are into tiki. They like the nostalgia. They like the environment, but it also correlates. Many of them have interest in mid-century architecture, in rockabilly, in Rat Pack era pop music, in vintage fashions. So there's a lot of that nostalgia or retro symbolism or consciousness among people who are into it. Basically started in the 90s. Probably one of the first anywhere, and the first in this area was the Conga Lounge in Oakland, which the owner, it's fairly recently closed up, but the owners, after trying it out, opened Forbidden Island in Alameda, which is an awesome tiki. It's the other great tiki bar in Alameda besides the Cappy Bar.
All right.
And Forbidden Island, actually, they've always done a lot of great mugs. Just this afternoon, they released brand new mug, two
That's
color
a very
variations.
special mug.
It's the newest tiki mug in the world, probably, because it's the only one released today. And it's based on a painting called Forbidden Island that includes a cartoonish, slightly anthropomorphic tiki holding a young woman, like kind of the King Kong pose. But anyway, the painter who did the original painting then went and designed a mug based on it. So
Well, I think these,
if it were not so large, we would have used it for our Mai Tai, but we'll use regular Mai Tai
all right,
glasses.
well, speaking of Mai Tais, I think it's time to start our drinks. So
Really?
if you've got your
You
recipe.
don't want to talk about any more tiki? Okay.
No, we can talk about it while you're making it. So walk us through, what do you do first when you're making
Well,
a Mai
first
Tai?
we slice the lime, and you know, I'm a little clumsy, so you know, we'll do our very best not to accidentally amputate my thumb or anything.
That would be bad.
You know, I mean, I'm the only person in this area who is widely suspected, erroneously, I should point out, but widely suspected of having accidentally burned down a tiki bar. So people do watch carefully when I'm, you know, holding sharp objects or flammable ones.
That's good to know. Do you serve any flaming drinks or?
We do.
Mhm.
You know, we have the fire extinguisher here.
Okay. So what's the first ingredient after the limes?
So
What do you go for next?
It's going to be the rums.
Okay. Now, does it matter what kind of rum?
Well, yes, Trader Vic invented the Mai Tai
Mhm.
twice. The first time it was as a classic cocktail in the 40s.
Okay.
And then in the 60s, Matson hired him to make a more tourist-friendly one. And that's when he added pineapple juice and a dark rum float. Before that, there was no fruit juice other than lime for the sour. But the original Mai Tai did not have, you know, pineapple, orange, any of the things that get added. Nowadays, you could take any two rums and any two fruit juices, and somewhere in the world, there is a bar that claims that this is their authentic original Mai Tai recipe.
Well, I see a lot of rums up on your shelves here. Just how many different types of rums do you have?
We've probably got about 150 different.
Is that right? And you've tried them all?
Over time, yes.
Okay.
And then, you know, I don't actually drink. What I do is compulsively finish rum and whiskey lists at bars that have some kind of list or club.
Oh, you mean like the Forbidden Island?
Yeah, like the
list.
Forbidden Island, where you get your name up on a plaque when you finish the list. And as it happens, every dog I've ever owned has his or her name on a plaque because they've all finished their list by hanging out on the patio with me while I drink their rums for them.
Well, my son had his 21st birthday there at Forbidden Island, and he decided he wanted to get a substantial way through that list. And the evening did not end well, but he had a good time.
Yeah, I'm sure it went okay.
Yeah. Okay, I have a little bit of a trivia question for you while you're making your drink.
Perfect.
So last year, year before last, I was in Tonga, and I found out that there's one Tongan word that we use in everyday English language. So I'm going to have you guess what it is.
That would be a Tongan. I have to
Yeah.
admit, I have never been to Tonga.
Okay.
I don't know a lot of people who are fluent in the language, so I'm not a good.
All right. I guess you're giving up. Okay.
I am giving up.
So
yes.
the word is taboo.
All
So
right.
taboo is a Tongan word. And that's what we picked up from the culture there. So
Excellent.
just a little bit of trivia
Yes.
for you next time you're making a cocktail and you get to chit chat.
Or putting the perfume on people. I don't know.
There you go. So, all right.
That's my association with the word.
So how are we doing to drink? You're squeezing a lot of.
We're
limes
squeezing
here.
the limes.
Okay, what comes next?
And then what comes next is grabbing my reading glasses.
Okay. You don't have it memorized?
Well, in order
Oh, I see, to
to
read.
to
them.
measure, I need to
gonna have room now.
Yes.
Okay. So how precise does this recipe have to be? It's not just like. a
You
little bit of
always
this.
want any recipe to be very precise. I mean,
Okay,
the, you know,
like you're baking bread or something.
very much so,
Okay,
very much so.
okay, all right.
So,
You got the lime going.
we'll put that in here.
Okay, what's next?
Okay, I know I'm slow, but
Oh, it's all right.
I'll
it's all
catch up
right.
with myself eventually.
Well, as I said,
Okay, for the
tiki is a
rum,
lifestyle. We're not in a hurry to do anything, are we?
okay. For the rum,
Mm-hmm,
as our, the written recipe we sent out
right.
was largely based on the third version of Vic's original classic cocktail. And the reason I say it that way, when he first invented the Mai Tai,
Mm-hmm,
he used a 17-year age rum
mm-hmm,
from an outfit called Ray and Nephew,
mm-hmm.
who the rum they make now is under the brand name Appleton.
Okay,
And the Mai Tai was so popular that he used up the world's supply of Ray and Nephew 17.
is that right?
Yes. And of course, once you run the world out of a 17-year-old rum, it's hard to replace it because
I'm gonna show everybody what kind of rum you used here.
well, yeah, we'll get to the one we're using,
Okay,
but then he switched to a 15-year from the same one and he ran it out of them.
Ah.
So the third version, he wanted a Martinique rum.
mm-hmm,
Now, nowadays, Martinique is known exclusively for rum made from fresh cane juice,
mm-hmm.
which is very different than regular rum.
Mm.
It's very vegetal. It's a lot like garden greens. It's
Mhm.
got that same bitterness.
Mm.
And if I don't. So he wanted a Martinique rum,
Mm-hmm.
but one that's more similar to modern rums from places like Barbados and Guyana,
Mm-hmm.
and a funky Jamaican rum.
Funky Jamaican rum.
So
So you're using
what
two
we're
different,
using
you're using
in
two
those
different
two,
kinds, two different kinds
yes.
of rum? Okay.
So what we're using for those two categories, bit of product placement here. The distillery where I'm a partner happens to make. We make our Navy style rum, which is designed to resemble the classic rum from the various British colonies I mentioned.
Mhm.
And then we don't actually make, we source and age a Jamaican rum.
Mhm.
So I'm using those two. I'm using Lost Spirits.
Now back up a little
Jamaican.
bit. How much of each of these rums are you using?
We're
Can you
doing
put
1 ounce of each.
1 ounce of each?
And of course, everything I say about the
Mhm.
quantity, we're doubling because we're gonna pour it into 2 glasses and we're both gonna
course.
enjoy it.
Mhm.
So a little more lime juice.
Okay.
Brian, can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
So if I only have one type of rum in my house, can I use one type of rum for the 2 ounces, or am I gonna miss something pretty spectacular by doing that?
Well, it's always better to duplicate exactly the combination, but it's also to taste and, you know, you'd want to use a fairly mainstream sort of rum.
So not coconut rum or anything weird or
Well,
funky.
for that, you might make a very good cocktail. It'd be a different cocktail.
It wouldn't be a Mai Tai then.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Okay.
So we add a little dry curacao, which is an orange liqueur,
Mhm. And how much of that?
half ounce
Half ounce?
for each
Okay.
of the two. And a half ounce of an almond flavored syrup called orgeat.
Mhm.
And I cannot pronounce it exactly right because I don't have a French accent, but it's in between trying to pronounce it with the T and without the T.
Doesn't matter. And where do you get that?
Specialty stores, you
Okay.
know, the liquor stores. I got it at craft beer and wine here in town.
Okay.
we use a tiny bit of sugar syrup.
Mhm.
And this is the part where I will probably make a mess because I should have put this in a different kind of jar to
Okay.
try and put it. And we're adding a 1/4 ounce to each drink of the sugar syrup. Trader Vic recommended rock candy syrup, which is just a particular grade of sugar syrup.
Now, how many, when you have people over, how many of these are you making in an evening?
We'll make anywhere from 25 to 75 drinks, and
Okay. And give it a good shake, I see.
yes,
It's fairly drippy.
it is. That is not the fault of the cocktail. That's the fault of the amateur bartender.
Ah,
And then we normally put these.
okay.
Actually, let's
Do-
use a smaller Mai Tai glass.
All right. And do you have like the little umbrellas? Is that part of the presentation?
We do, but not in a Mai Tai.
Oh, okay.
It's just, that's
It's
not a tradition.
classic Mai Tai. It doesn't have any of the
It's,
flim flam.
well, it's not the standard garnish, you know. Every drink has its own garnish.
Brian, we have another question from the attendees.
Okay.
Somebody has Flor de Cana, a 7-year aged rum from Nicaragua.
Whoa.
Is a Mai Tai a good drink for it?
Yes, it's a not especially flavorful. You know, it's a more cleaner style. Most of the Spanish-speaking countries use different style of distillation. It makes it a little less flavorful, but then that's a good thing for a lot of cocktails. It plays well with
Mhm.
other ingredients.
Mhm.
And so that's my long-winded way of saying, yes, you could substitute that for the non-funky of the two that I mentioned.
Mhm.
So for the, what I'm calling Navy style, because we're using a Navy style from Lost Spirits,
Oh boy. Thank you. Cheers.
may have put a little too much lime juice in there, but we'll see.
There they go. That's very tasty.
Hi, Brian. It's Kevis.
Kevis,
Hey, Kevin Crossman had a question. He wants to know
Hey,
how many tiki bars, how many bars have you been to finish that you have finished their rum or whiskey list?
okay. I think Kevin would give us a high-end question about the Mai Tai, because he's one of the world's leading experts in what the search for the perfect Mai Tai.
Mhm.
But anyway, to answer the question as asked, yeah, I just compulsively do the lists. I've, as I said, at Forbidden Island, all of my dogs have done the list. I've done Smuggler's Cove, Halapele up in Portland. Here in town, the American Oak is the only whiskey list I've done.
Oh.
And just informally, I've had every rum they have on the shelf, but they don't have an official list for that. So, you know, when there was a bar in Oakland called Longitude, I did their list a few times. So any place that, and then after they went out of business, Kon-Tiki moved into the same spot and I did their list. So I just enjoy doing, you know, it gives me a focus. It gives me a reason to drink. And the only one I haven't finished yet, I'm still working on Jungle Bird in Sacramento.
There's always a new goal.
Sure.
Now I got to ask, why is there that single shoe sitting on top of your fridge?
Because
Do
it's
you want to show them the shoe? Because it looks kind of weird. It's just like a single shoe.
okay.
on the fridge.
Well, it's autographed by a guy named Jimmy Buffett, who
Mm.
the tiki purists would tell you has nothing whatsoever to do with tiki culture, but that's kind of related to the distinction I made earlier between people who are into tiki as recreating a very specific culture and lifestyle from the 50s, and people who are into tiki as recreating the islands and beaches where we'd rather be sitting than in a dark, smoky bar or whatever. So for those of us who are more the island and beach side of tiki, Jimmy Buffett is not part of tiki culture per se, but he's part of the tropical lifestyle that, for me, the Cappy Bar is about.
I see.
I have a
And if we, normally we would have the music on, and our playlist is probably 40% Buffett and another 20% similar trop rock.
Trop rock. I've never heard of trop rock.
That's a term for Jimmy Buffett style music.
Oh, okay. Maybe it'll show up someday. All right. Our
You-
sound,
we-
Peter's got a question here off screen.
you wanna-
Mhm.
tell us about your happy hour bar that you
Yeah,
do
yeah.
on
Tell,
first.
when do
One-
people come?
Once a month, first Thursday of every month, we have a happy hour.
Why did you start it?
So I could invite people over and drink with them, and we have some fun. Pretty much every month, we have a brand rep, a distillery sponsor, and either a brand rep or actual distiller comes and brings samples for tastings. And in August, which will be when we start up again, and I hope maybe not all 100 the same day of the people that are logged in to watch us, but I hope everybody watching will contact me on Facebook or email me, and we'll try and get you invited to these. But in August, our next one, our brand sponsor will be an outfit called Balcones, a distillery. They were the first legal distillery in Texas, and they have the distinction, a lot of distilleries do what they call a barrel select, where the owner of a bar or a chain of liquor stores will go and pick out from the rick house, the barrel warehouse of a distillery, what they consider the best barrel or the best blend of barrels, and they'll bottle it for that bar. And the reason I mention that is Balcones has the distinction of doing barrel selects for 2 different Alameda bars. Got to be the only place that has done 2 Alameda bars, because I only know of 2 Alameda bars that have ever had their own in-house bottling. They've done a rum for Forbidden Island and a whiskey for American Oak. So their local brand rep is a great guy, and we look forward to having him come and host and have us taste a lot of their interesting products and stuff right off the still.
Now
And
you
we've
have,
had that with a lot of different distillers over the years.
so you have some other plans on how to decorate your tiki bar here. So I know
We will
that,
be doing a waterfall behind the
Okay.
big tiki,
okay.
and we may also then do kind of a rain effect behind the big picture window.
There's a picture window that looks out to some plants and
Yeah.
like a totem pole.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
a tiki, actually, yeah, that totem pole style tiki.
Mhm.
Back in the first era of tiki, there was a place called Hawaiian Hut in Honolulu that was one of the big tiki palaces, like the original version of Tonga Room, or the places that had the big showrooms and stuff in addition to restaurant and bar. And when that closed up many years ago, a friend of mine, well, a couple of guys who lived in Hawaii at the time, one of whom was opening a bar, basically went dumpster diving and picked up a bunch of stuff from Hawaii, a bunch of things they were throwing away, including that totem pole style multi-head tiki pole there. And it was in a Honolulu, it was in a Big Island bar called Okole Maluna. And we got a lot of stuff from our ice machine is from that bar, but a lot of our decor is also from that bar when they went out of business. So anyway, yeah, out there, we're gonna have a rain effect probably.
So is that sort of copying Disneyland or
I
is
guess
that where
so.
you got the idea?
Um,
Have you been, do you go down there regularly?
the Trader Sam's,
No, well, to the Tiki Bar down in Disneyland.
Trader Sam's is the tiki bar down
That,
there.
oh, that's the name of it.
Yeah, that's the world-class tiki bar located at the Disneyland Hotel.
Oh,
Because they don't serve alcohol inside the park. So the Enchanted Tiki Room is a great place. It's a great tiki place. It's not a tiki bar because, you know,
it's just a tiki place.
yes.
So you're not gonna have birds dropping down from the ceiling singing.
Oh, we
right?
might, but
So
actually, okay, the distillery,
you're thinking about
the distillery I was talking about, Lost
Mhm.
Spirits.
it. Mhm.
I mean, one of the two things that we're famous for is our extremely elaborate distillery tour show.
Hmm.
Well, we've won a lot of awards for best distillery tour, but in 2017, we won an award for best theme park in our category, which is smaller theme parks. You know, we weren't
Mhm.
competing directly with the Mouse or with any movie studios, but still, it's an incredible for, you know, what's supposed to be like a factory tour. It's an incredible theme park experience. And we're building a new one in Vegas. It's going to be even more so. But the segue is that, yeah, it does have tiki room style birds in the gift shop. In the gift shop, the birds, you know, tell you what to buy and give you a sales pitch. But everything else about it, you know, and I haven't even been to see because they keep changing it. So I haven't been to the most current version of the tour. Like they didn't have a submarine when I was there. They had a boat, but no submarine, you know, in the inside the distillery. So it's fairly amazing stuff. Again,
So-
you know.
Brian, I have a question that I'm going to combine with a question from Catherine. So Catherine was asking what your favorite tiki bar was, other than maybe Forbidden Island. And my question is, if there's two most famous tiki bars that somebody should experience, which ones are they?
Wow. Okay. Something of an answer to both is Smuggler's Cove in San Francisco. I mean, they're considered the world's best rum bar, and that's almost an objective statement.
The same decorator, right? The same decorator. You know,
who did this
yeah,
place,
right.
yeah. And the owner of Smuggler's Cove is a partner in a brand new tiki bar that I haven't been to, but from everything I've heard, it's whole nother level compared to any place else that exists. And it's Max's South Seas Hideaway in Grand Rapids, Michigan. But I'm a huge fan of Smuggler's Cove.
Mhm.
I love Forbidden Island. I love Halapele up in Portland. Kon-Tiki in Oakland. I would recommend experiencing all of those for reasons that don't necessarily relate to being the very best tiki bar or rum bar, but for history and everything. There is, of course, the Tonga Room in San Francisco at the Fairmont.
It's now the oldest running one, isn't it?
The oldest tiki bar in the world is Trader Sam's in the outer Richmond of San Francisco. It's now more of a dive bar, living on its tiki bar reputation, but everybody should go there just for the history. It's the oldest tiki bar in the world.
That's the oldest.
And another one that's also quite old is Alibi in Portland, which is also a very fun place. And you should stop there. They serve food and are open at lunchtime, so you should go there while you're waiting for Halapele in Portland to open.
Mhm. Now, so do you have all kinds of like garnish and umbrellas? Is that all part of it?
And you know,
But
I have the
don't
world's
put them
worst
on the-
memory even when rum is not involved. The
So you don't
proper
put them on
garnish,
you don't put them on the classic Mai Tais, but you
the
put
proper
garnishes on
garnish
everything
for a
else.
Mai Tai, the official
Uh-huh.
garnish.
Oh, are we missing something here?
We are missing something.
Oh,
It's the spent lime shell.
okay.
And because I switched to the smaller Mai Tai glasses,
Right.
and then a sprig of mint.
Mm-hmm. You see, you squished it.
Yeah, you slap the mint to bring out the oils, although these,
Okay.
as soon as I opened the package, they didn't need much slapping. They're quite
They're pretty
fragrant.
fragrant already.
Yes.
Well, mint grows really well here, so it's taken
And
over part of
the,
my backyard.
Mai Tai glass is
Mhm.
similar to a old fashioned or double old fashioned, a bucket glass,
Mhm.
but unlike most rocks glasses or whatever, it has the slanted sides. So this is a classic Mai Tai glass.
Mhm.
Since we weren't doing a huge recipe for getting somebody drunk, we used the smaller version, which these are from Trader Vic's. Trader Vic's uses them for, they have Mai Tai sets of 3 different versions of Mai Tai that comes on a little surfboard shaped board that has 3 of these small glasses, taster glasses. So that's what we're using.
Ah, very nice.
Partly because, you know, could make the same recipe for this size glass, and then I'd have to go bail you out when you tried to drive home from here. So we'll
Luckily, we live close, some of us.
yeah. So for the purpose of you know, the show, we're using the child's portion.
The child's portion.
Child's
So
portion.
I remember asking you before, you have quite an interesting selection of mugs, but they're not all out. You rotate them around.
Yeah.
So you've got some in storage.
Yeah, we have about 450.
Wow.
As I said, these 2 are newest.
Okay.
And, you know, Forbidden Island has long had some interesting and creative approaches to mugs. One of the very first that they did many years ago is in the form of a diseased liver. It was kind of a you know, joke, a
Yeah. it
tip
even
of the
says-
hat.
It says bad liver on the back.
Bad liver is the name of the
Okay.
mug, yeah, and it's
Yeah,
engraved on
charming.
it.
Very charming.
Yeah.
What are some other weird mugs that you have?
Just have a lot, you know,
Yeah.
the Disney ones and
Right. I'm rather fond of this one. This one's
yeah,
from
that one's kind of based on a
Easter
a
Island.
moai, which is what the Easter Island stone heads are called. They're called
Okay,
moai.
so is a moai a subset of the tiki idols?
Yeah,
'Cause
it's
tiki
specific,
is-
moai
yeah.
are specifically the stone heads from Easter Island.
Oh.
And that's based on
That's cool.
that. And somewhere I believe we have a less elongated, more naturally moai
Okay.
shaped. And of course, because we're on live TV, I can't find it. But
We believe you.
Carrie and I had at our wedding, you know how you always give a little gift to all of the attendees, and it's perfectly appropriate for Carrie's and my life together that we couldn't agree on what to give out as the wedding souvenir. So we gave 2. She gave everybody a Japanese lucky cat, the ones that give the Black Power salute. And I gave everybody a mug that I had commissioned, and it's a moai that had our names and the date and stuff stenciled on the back. And I know we've got a couple of them here to show the people, but as I said, you know, it's the nature of
Well, while you're
my
looking,
level of organization, plus the fact that we're on live TV, that we don't have it.
so Devin and Kevis Bronson, who's one of our technical advisors here, along with Conchita Perales, who's helping out the technical end. Has anybody watching done their own Mai Tai? Has anyone dared? How about you, Kevis? You had the ingredients going. Devin,
Yep, I've got mine halfway through it.
how did it turn out?
It turned out really good.
Yeah.
I spilled some lime juice, so I had to use extra limes, but it worked out in the end.
Oh, well,
Okay.
I can vouch for, there's a whole lot of spilling going on here.
Yeah, that's
There's a lot of sloshing around here.
yeah, that's part of the
A
recipe
lot of
when I'm,
sloshing.
yeah.
Sticky
Yeah.
lime fingers.
That's why they don't hire me as a bartender. And why for all of my happy hours, I have a bartender that we hire every month.
Now, didn't you say, Brian, that that is actually the official uniform, the shirt you're wearing? That's
Yeah.
the uniform of the.
Yeah,
of the
this
team?
shirt, we had them made.
Mhm.
So yeah, I wear it, Carrie wears it, the
Mhm.
dogs wear it, and
The
our
dogs wear it.
bartender and bar
Mhm.
manager both wear
Mhm. You take turns making drinks behind the bar then? You and your crew?
them. No, the bartender pretty much handles it. And then
Uh-huh.
normally we always have the rum brand rep set up at
Setting up.
the gazebo bar outside.
Yeah, I came once and they were there. And
Yeah,
I came another time and you were serving something out of a coconut shell. So was that a common?
we do
serving?
it from time to time if it's an appropriate drink, usually a coconut flavored drink.
Right, right. Mhm.
And we do it because I love coconut.
So do I.
I love coconut drinks like pina coladas.
Mhm, mhm,
And my very favorite cocktail is called a coquito.
mhm.
It's basically a Puerto Rican coconut flavored eggnog.
Ooh,
And like
sounds
eggnog,
very festive.
yeah, like eggnog here, it's a seasonal thing,
Mhm, mhm.
Christmas or winter generally. So usually, almost every December, either December or January each year, it's our featured drink of the night
Mhm,
for happy hour because
mhm.
it's my favorite.
Now,
So-
go ahead, Devin.
Oh, I was gonna ask, the current iteration of your tiki bar, imagine that it took a long time to collect and add all these things. How often do you add to it, and do you rotate things out if you have a whole bunch of extra stuff?
We do have a lot of extra stuff and we do rotate mostly the mugs. The mugs we rotate.
Mhm.
Otherwise, we always intend to do more than we do. And again, that's kind of my characteristic, which is why we've been talking about how we're going to do the waterfall for, 8 or 9 years now. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that Notch, the Tiki Bar designer, who did this place or was the lead for this place. Tiki Diablo, who did the logo Tiki for Forbidden Island and all of the different iterations of Forbidden Island mugs that were based on the logo Tiki.
Mhm.
He did our big Tiki. He did a number of other pieces, worked with Notch on some things, but they're busy, because they're among the best tiki bar designers around, and everybody opening a new bar takes them away, and so they never get around to finishing our stuff. But the other reason is just I never get around to it. But yeah, we've added a lot of stuff. We've become a bit more themed just for the decor around rum barrels, because we have the original British Navy rum barrel, and we have a few others, and then we have a lot of mugs that are rum barrel shaped.
Mhm.
So that has been kind of a gradual change in our decor that as we become still a tiki bar, but more of a rum bar, as my own interests are more about classic rum culture and tasting as compared to just tiki. Our decor reflects more of the rum world,
Mhm.
and that'll probably continue to evolve.
So young people, millennials, are they into tiki bar drinks and decor now?
Don't know about millennials. Next generation above them, yes. I mean, it seems like an awful, when I talked about, the nostalgia aspect of it.
Mhm.
And probably any time and place in human history, the people least likely to embrace nostalgia or retro culture for a particular era are the ones who came of age half a generation later. The people whose own subculture or era was defined by having moved on from whatever their older siblings or parents liked. You know, what was square for no better reason than because it had been hip for people who are now old and square by nature.
Right.
So people like me who came of age in the 60s and whose culture was defined by the 60s
Mhm.
are not necessarily the people to embrace the 50s. But people who are now, say, in their 40s, are people who came along too late to have seen the culture of the 50s,
Mhm.
too late to have seen those of us who thought we buried the culture of the 50s,
Mhm.
and in some cases missed it. So a lot of the aspects of, you know, what's now called mid-century culture, whether it's architecture, fashions, music, whatever, are most often embraced by people who came of age 2 generations later. And because Tiki overlaps with that so much at Tiki events and stuff, the people who are into the Tiki culture are mostly, say, 10 to 15 years younger than I am, or somewhere in that range. Whereas the people who are into pure rum culture are a much wider age demographic because they're just people who enjoy particular cocktails or particular spirits.
Well, it's no doubt that it's a fun type of venue.
That's part of it. And
My nephew, who's in his 20s, and my two sons in their 20s, they got together in Forbidden Island and had quite a laugh that they ordered something called the Virgin Sacrifice.
yes,
And as it was brought out, there was some chanting going on, like, ooh, ah, ooh, ah. I mean, and that was a memorable thing. And it really didn't matter what the drink tasted like.
well, it's
It was-
forbidden. Yeah,
It was just a funny name, and they enjoyed the chanting.
the funny name certainly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're
I mean, who wouldn't like a virgin sacrifice if you were 20-something male?
absolutely. There's a tiki drink called the bearded clam,
Mhm.
and I have 3 different versions of the mug that's designed for that drink. And just in case there are, you know, any KK young kids watching, I'm not going to show the bearded clam mug, but it's what you might expect.
Okay.
But no, the other part of what you're talking about,
Mhm.
the bowls,
Yeah. Bowls are
usually
fun.
collectively known as scorpion bowls, that
Mhm.
you know, and that's what's most easily served with fire. I mean,
Sure. Mhm.
and of course, flaming tiki drinks is a key part of the culture and
Mhm.
something that adds to a party. You get a bowl. You the bowls usually served that are called volcano bowls because they have a post in the middle where you put a spent lime shell or something that you fill with either 151 rum or lemon extract. Because people talk that lemon extract is, you know, standard for flaming drinks,
Mhm.
and people say, well, yeah, it's because, you know, the lemon pith is very flammable.
Oh.
So lemon
Mhm.
extract is very flammable.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, people, you know, say that's the reason. That's partly the reason, but the main reason is because commercial lemon extract that you buy in the grocery stores, 86% alcohol.
Mhm.
That's the real reason why it burns with a nice bright blue flame.
Well, I have to show you. I
And
have
the
this.
people who are too young to drink are now
Mhm.
going to run off to the grocery stores and start buying lemon extract and then try and chug it down. And if it's so awful, they'll try that once, and then we won't have that problem
There you
anymore.
go. So I have this book. I have to show you sometime. It's got some really funny drinks in it. There's one that's very memorable, and you're supposed to serve this drink. It's in a big bowl, if like you something terrible happens or you lose your job, and it's called the Tidy Bowl, and it's bright blue, and you put little raisins in it, and it's supposed to look like a toilet bowl, and
Okay.
you collectively drink this thing. I know,
And
it's
yes,
funny.
I'm
It's funny.
sufficiently grossed
Have
out.
you
I
seen
will
it?
never serve one.
I don't know
Yeah.
why I thought that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to a question. We have a question.
You need to interrupt this dialogue.
We have a question from Elise, who said the Mr. Bali High mugs in the picture of the event invite look like they're from many eras. Have you visited the Bali High and any other California favorites? And could you show us the mugs a little closer?
Yeah, those are-
Okay, if you look in the background here, those are the same 4 that were on the event
I think she
invite.
wants you to go fetch one. Hopefully similar.
They're similar,
Mhm.
but over the years, I mean, the Bali High bar in San Diego has used this particular mug for 60, 70 years. I'm not sure exactly, but it goes back a long way. And before it was a mug, they had a statue of that individual.
Mhm.
I tend not to, emphasize this that much because there's been in recent years attention as to what extent tiki culture represents cultural appropriation, whether we are making fun of other ethnicities and cultures,
Mhm.
religious or historic elements.
Mhm.
And it's a legitimate concern,
Mhm.
and it's something that gets discussed. And frankly, this looks like something of a data point for all of that. So I tend not to, be really big on tiki art that emphasizes some of the more primitive looking aspects of various cultures.
Mhm.
That's, well, to some extent, it's just me, but to some extent, it plays into a very legitimate debate
Mhm.
over, tiki are religious artifacts. To what extent can we make them part of a decor theme without insulting the people who use them as religious artifacts?
Well, you, like other people, like this theme because you very much like to be in these exotic places that you
Yes,
enjoy traveling there. And this is bringing some of that back home.
yes. But, I would also love to be in Mexico, but that would not be an excuse for, the cartoony images of a guy sleeping against a cactus with a, sombrero, bigger than, his horse.
Mhm.
So, it's a legitimate concern. And so I tend not to emphasize some of the, more potentially exploitive
Mhm.
versions. But that's a long-winded way of saying that
Okay.
I like these Bali High things, but they're not necessarily what I go for. And unfortunately, I've never been there. I've only been to San Diego a couple of times in my life, and have never made it to the Bali High, and I need to change that.
Hmm.
And we
Well-
have a question from Kevin on what is your favorite rum?
Well, I am probably required by contract to claim that it's Lost Spirits, the one where I'm a partner. But in fact, I tend to like what a lot of serious rum fans do not. Rum has a reputation outside the rum world as being sweeter than other spirits. That's not particularly true, except that many rums or some rums have added sugar post distillation. And they're sweetened because people like it that way. I tend to like a lot of those sweetened rums. It's the particular company whose rums I tend to like the most Plantation, who are changing their name as a result of similar conversations about what constitutes exploitation and what, is inappropriate, as a reminder of some of the more tragic aspects of the history of Caribbean sugar cultivation and stuff. So Plantation Rums is changing their name to something less evocative of that history. But unrelated to that, they tend to add sugar to many of their rums. It's a French company, so it's called dosage, which is what is a very common thing in brandy. European brandies, cognacs, armagnacs, and the like, generally have sugar added. And that's a tradition that the owner of Plantation, who the company is mainly Pierre Ferrand cognac, but when he went into rum, he brought that same tradition of dosage. So a lot of his rums are sweeter. And that's my long-winded way of saying that Plantation's 20th anniversary is my very favorite single rum. It has, and this is not coincidental to why it's my favorite, it has the strongest coconut notes of any non-flavored rum. And there is a wood lactone, which is one of the chemicals that comes out of the wood during the aging process, a particular wood lactone that gives rum that's aged in it coconut notes. And both the owner of Plantation and my partner in Lost Spirits have explained to me at various times this wood lactone and why it leads to this being the most coconut seeming of any non-flavored rum, which correlates rather highly with why it's my favorite.
Well, in the Mai Tai, you used a syrup. Is that what they used for the rums, or do they actually use sugar, like white sugar or brown sugar, or?
They actually, they create a sugar syrup and then they age it in barrels and add it to the rum before they re-age it. And a lot of the most of the companies that add sugar to rum, frankly, they do it because it's mediocre rum. The taste isn't that good, and sweetening it makes it more palatable. I think that Plantation, no, they make great rum that would be great rum even if it were not sweetened, but they have a tradition and they add what they think is the appropriate level of sweetness. Most of the companies that add sugar, they just add sugar. They have a fairly complex process of making a sugar syrup, aging it, and then adding bits of it to the rum. And then re-aging it. They do a lot of re-aging because Plantation, a few years ago, they bought a major distillery in Barbados, which also owned 1/3 of two major Jamaican distilleries. But till then, they did not make their own rum. They sourced it from all over the world and brought it back to Cognac, the province of Cognac, and where they have their facility because French cognac, the Pierre Ferrand is an award-winning, famous cognac brand. And so they would bring it back to the facility where they made that, and they would re-age it in used cognac barrels. And because the cognac had been sweetened, in some cases, that's all they had to do to sweeten the rum was re-age it in wet cognac barrels. But they also add their house-made barrel-aged sugar syrup.
Now, some of these countries that export rum, that may be a major source of revenue for them.
Oh, very much so, for any of the Caribbean countries. And, we have a number of rums that are labeled as being from the Caribbean.
Mhm.
Doesn't say what country. And the reason is, under US law, if you have a product that has components from two different countries and is assembled in a third country, then it can be exported to the US as product of that third country. And of course, that's mainly for things like Japanese cars with German spark plugs
Mhm.
that are installed in Mexicali and then exported under NAFTA as product of Mexico. But there are at least 4 releases that I know of that are done the same way. They have 100 barrels of Cuban rum with, say, 1 barrel of Trinidad rum that's been selected for blending with the Cuban rum.
Mhm.
They ship them all to Scotland, blend them, age them there, ship them to the US as product of Scotland,
Mm.
with a label that anywhere else in the world would say, Samaroli Cuba rum. In the US, it's sold as Samaroli Caribbean rum, but it's legal here because it's officially product of Scotland,
So
even
to
though
finish-
it's mostly Cuban.
To finish up, what are some of the other drinks you make in your bar here?
Anything, any cocktail,
Oh,
and you,
upon request.
yeah. I mean,
Mhm.
obviously, we have, besides the rum, we have whiskeys and we have the normal range of everything. So we'll make whatever people order, but we
Mhm.
also our featured cocktails have usually been rum, and they're usually something based on what that month's brand sponsor
Mhm.
does that features their rum. And in some cases, they've come, Tanduay, which is the world's best-selling rum, largest selling rum. They beat out Budweiser. I'm sorry, Bacardi.
Bacardi.
The actually the same month that they came here and did
Mhm.
their first event here was the month that they beat out Bacardi to become the #1 selling rum in the world.
Mhm.
But they come and they've got a couple of cocktails that their brand rep designed to feature their rum.
So Devin and Kevis, any more questions before we wrap up?
Yeah, because I'll talk for hours, but assuming that people here are starting to fade.
I think we're about wrapped up. There's some chat going on in the background about like Cuban versus Scotland rums and different discussions. Kevin shared a list of tiki bars, and that was appreciated. But I don't have any new questions coming in, and it's 8, so maybe
Okay.
we'll wrap things up.
If any of the people, doing chats want to continue, I'm perfectly happy to do, semi offline, once everybody else leaves, I'm still prepared to
Make another
stand and
Mai
talk.
Tai.
There you go.
Or
Well,
make a cocktail,
Well,
make a zombie or something.
let us know if you want us to do more Zoom events. Other people are rumored to have cool drinking establishments in their backyards.
And actually, since we're an architectural preservation
Yeah.
outfit, there are also people who may not have a drinking establishment in their backyard, but have great houses that we could do an
Yeah,
event.
that as well.
But
So
since
that as
one of the
well.
people who has an awesome drinking establishment in her backyard is sitting right here, right there,
it's my husband's.
I would love to see, okay,
Maybe
I'm
next
sorry. One of the people whose husband has an
I
awesome
get to use it.
drinking establishment, I would love to see a Zoom event out of
Super.
their pub.
Talk them into it. So, and in the meantime, we have, for those that aren't already a member, we have a really cool newsletter that comes out several times a year. We have awards that we give out for special homes, and that's happening.
And we have
this
great
next
home
month.
tours
September
once the
20
plague is over.
September 26th is our next event. which is kind of a weird date. Did you know 3 of our 8 board members are born on September 26th?
That's an odd coincidence.
It's a very odd coincidence, and that was just coincidentally the day we're doing. So we're having a tour. Conchita is organizing that. It's going to be great. It's going to be similar to last year where we're using an app, and some pre-recorded information. It'll be on the West End, a bunch of very beautiful houses, and it'll include a lot of information on that app.
Interviews with homeowners.
Interviews with homeowners, so that's coming September. And then, well, just a hint, AAPS members are being invited to see a very cool, very noteworthy Victorian, have a private tour. So join us if you're not already a member. And our website, newly redone website, is alameda-preservation.org. And that's it. If there aren't any other questions, then
We'd love to see you. And we'd love to have you contact us about joining
yeah, if you
one of
have
our future happy hours here.
yeah, or if you have a really cool house or anything that you'd like to
Absolutely.
show us, give us a ring and we'll see if we can include that in some future event.
Yes.
All right.
Right.
Thanks, everyone.
See you guys next time.
Thank you all for coming.
Music.
There you go. All right, well, I'm gonna finish. my
Music
drink
we can
here.
do.
Yay.
You want to try some of this?